we do have, keep in mind, it was the Cubby being played. That was quite good for Insanity, as they get the Azir for themselves here. It was a B1 Victor last time around, but with Victor and Orianna taken off the board, Azir is up and available, and we're going to have to see now what Insanity can use to play into this. I mean, if he wants to go for something like a Vigar, this could be the game for it.
I would also be down for a Kog'Maw if Luminosity want to try their hand at scaling pound for pound against Disguise when it comes to the late game. So far, they're not showing anything out of the ordinary with their picks. It's just the Ambessa for FakeGod that you mentioned was such a highlight for this guy. Also, a Corki that could be flexed between either Tactical or Insanity.
Yeah, that's a good call. These are two champions they played in that game one against Disguise. This FakeGod did have a very good Ambessa game. They just couldn't kill Rahel later on in the fights when he was playing the Zeri, which was the matchup into that Corki. So curious if he wants to grab it, but Disguise as a team, they've been very disciplined in taking the top side in these first three picks. I don't think we've seen many drafts, if any, where they haven't taken the top side the first three. So gonna stick with that, as it's gonna be a Maokai for Tomio, and that kind of leans that Corki more and more towards the possibility of going mid.
It would help at least make that damage profile on the top side of the maps evenly split between the two. Mostly physical damage coming from FakeGod and Insanity, and mostly the AP from Tomio. I'm just saying, Matt, Nature's Grasp is a nice way to guarantee a couple of living artillery shots from Kog'Maw if it gets locked in. I'm holding out for it. Right now,
range into Azir. I like it. You take range identity into Azir. I think Maokai is a good start to chip into that.
Yep. Luminosity, though, trying to take away some options from Disguise in terms of what Rahel might play. I like that Disguise already putting the pieces together and saying, hey, you know what? They're trying to set up long range into us. Let's get rid of that Ziggs.
Yeah, and I mean, that can be played both by Tactical and Insanity. I like the Ziggs into Azir matchup. I know not everyone's willing to play it. In this region, we have APA. LPL, we watched Knight play it earlier on in this split, and it was quite good. So I think the range identity, again, playing that into Azir, taking options like that away, that's going to be good. As Sivir taken off the board here, you know, Raafaa, I think that these two bans for me, signaling, I think that we could get a Kaisa. I'm very curious if we have Kaisa taken away. Kaisa, a very big champion in this tournament and for both of these players. Really helps enable Tactical play aggressive, as he uses that hit so well. Saw it in the series against Istral yesterday. But no, they're going to keep on attacking what could be mid, still expecting this Corki to go bot. But yeah, Kaisa is going to be the pick, and that's a big takeaway from Rahel and a big pick for Tactical.
Nice call, Matt. Well, with the Kaisa locked in, we know for certain that it is Corki in the mid lane for Insanity, and now all that remains is a support pick for Zeyzal. He'll get his support counter pick of choice, but Disguise going with that grand old defensive formation in the Xayah and Rakan locked in.
This does really make it so that Disguise, they have a lack of range. Like Xayah and Azir, they do not play in the range that, you know, you can utilize Maokai Nature's Grasp. Corki and Kaisa, I would say two shorter range carries, and Ambessa having to dive. I think that's why they were okay giving away the Kaisa. They knew that they could play this Xayah Rakan if they needed to. So Disguise, I think for me, important that they are able to get ahead a little bit in these lane phases and use that strength of Xayah Rakan and maybe move it around. I gotta say that for LG, there's a lot of strength to keeping Xayah Rakan as a duo, as of course they give themselves more in their kit if they do play as a duo. But if I'm Luminosity Gaming, I think that I'm really tempted to move that Kaisa top early on and get Tactical those couple waves of solo XP against that Ksante. That could be a happy scenario for Tactical to get out of a lane where the first few levels are pretty tough.
I'm definitely not opposed to getting a Kaisa a little bit of accelerated spikes into for his own liking, as Luminosity Gaming, they have not really shown anything in this first draft, things that we were not already expecting, and what has been super characteristic of this squad for the entirety of the 2025 season. But it will be a good test for Luminosity to determine, do we need to change things up, or are we okay playing with what we have been able to polish for so many months, all to culminate in one last best of 5?
Yeah, and I mean, this is a curious one too, because I really feel like from the start, this was going to be Luminosity Gaming versus Disguise. We were talking the upper bracket final. How much do you show? How much do you hide? Both teams going to leave it all out on the Rift today. as it's the end of the LTA North Promotion Tournament with an LCS spot on the line.
Game 1 starts now, folks. It is the grand finals of the LTA North Promotion Tournament as we get a absolutely gorgeous view of Summoner's Rift. I know it's only 2 p.m. over my time, but it's looking like we're kind of forwarding time into nighttime here. It's a beautiful, beautiful skybox selection by our prod team.
You know, we got to start showing off the world stuff here pretty soon. As of course, World starts in 2 days, guys. This is 0.19, so 19, which frankly is a pretty close patch to 20. So if you want to get a preview of what we might see in China at the biggest tournament of the year, always a fun tournament to, you know, check out this and kind of get a preview of what could be between this and EMEA, watching the Tier 2 players give it their all as they wrap up their year. And an exciting year at that for these guys is, of course, that LTA North/LCS spot on the line. A new addition to the ecosystem this year, and one that this guys knew they were going to have to defend from day one, as their entire year, regardless of how it went in the league, was always going to come down to this.
Yeah. I think many Disguise fans were at least happy the fact that Disguise were able to push Cloud9 all the way to 5 games in their last best of 5 of the year. There's potential for Disguise to go further, but I think just watching the growth of the core of this team go from what was the beginning of the LTA North 2025 season to the end of it has made this team a lot more formidable than what they began as.
We're going to have our junglers doing mirrored clears here, so eXyu going to be going from top to bot. Maokai and Tomio there, bot to top. As that top lane matchup, see if he's going to get involved. I think that Tomio mostly just wants to do this, make sure he gets all of his camps. If he was playing for the bot side camps, potentially at risk of a Xayah, Rakan, Xin Zhao invade. Could be a little bit scary at that point of the game. But I still think that Disguise kind of needs to get the ball rolling here a little bit. I do think that if this game goes very late, I sometimes get concerned about Maokai scaling and Ambessa Corki as well. I think they can make life kind of difficult on Disguised in terms of auto-attacking and being in range for that. And that is where the Corki Maokai can be really nice against a champion like Azir.
I think the other thing to consider, too, is if Disguise don't want this game to go super late then they want to prioritize dragon stacking as fast as possible this game. It will be a little difficult into Maokai because that Bramble Smash does give you that max percentage HP damage, which is always so nice in being able to secure objectives either for yourself or even going for a quick steal. Tomio will have to at least help relieve some pressure from this bot lane because right now Rahel and Huhi are getting the better end of the push here.
And Sanity getting the better end of mid lane too, as that is a 24-15 gap, and Darkwings did not have the best first recall. No potions available, and that's going to hurt in the Corki matchup where you do some trading. So props to Insanity winning better. I know that Insanity said in the interview after they made it to grand finals over Istral that he felt like he had to be a little bit better this year. Didn't play his best in the regular season. Thought he didn't play his best in this series, and this was his opportunity to really step up and make his mark and make sure that their season ends in a victory, as it has been a great year for Luminosity Gaming, but most fans are not going to remember it if they don't win today, sadly.
That's the brutality of esports and competition in general. You know, you can look at a good old season,
promotion relegation, man. Yeah.
Promotion relegation too. Back-to-back NACL champions for Luminosity, but that will not matter if they cannot surpass the summit and be able to best Disguise and take their guest slot to go into the 2026 season of LCS. We're about 20 seconds away from the first dragon dinging on the map. So far, we haven't really seen any proactive gameplay from either of the junglers, just doing their camps and making sure that no lanes are going completely out of control. Some summoner spells were exchanged on the bottom lane with that heavy trade from Huhi and Rahel, and it ends up just being an exchange of heals from both of the supports.
I was a wee bit surprised that we didn't have the roll swap with the Kaisa, as we do have Insanity trying to use the Valkyrie to clear out this wave. Might try and squeeze in a base here on this timer. But I do think there's an opportunity to take an early dragon here if you are Rahel and Huhi. on this bot side with the Xin Zhao, as they're going to get to that wave first. They see Insanity resetting, so Darkwings is going to have priority on this wave, and yeah, eXyu is going to start up that dragon. So I think this is a good timer from Disguise, very disciplined one. It sets eXyu's game behind a little bit. Okay for the Maokai as Tomio gets some free time, but all of his camps are already kind of down, and this being just taken off of lane Prio is good timing from Disguised as they take a good step in the right direction and securing that first dragon.
No, it's nice because eXyu can still hit Krugs, and then if anything happens on the bot side of the map, he'll have a few seconds to go for something there. Meanwhile, Castle goes for the all-out onto FakeGod after he already used the public execution, but neither of the top laners go down or at least burn Flash doing it, so it just ends up being Castle with the health advantage.
A couple of nice hops there from FakeGod to get out of that.
Ooh.
But well
they
played.
gonna fade top. They might fade top here. FakeGod is trying to get volatile, but Castle might just be able to best him before he gets there. That's the flash out of FakeGod. You already see that Tomio and Insanity were moving on towards the top side of the map just to be able to protect and maybe look for a dive, but Castle thwarts it and even manages to freeze the wave in front of his tower.
I know some of our LTA casters think that Castle has an argument to be the best Ksante in the LTA. It has been a really big champ for him in this tournament, and definitely, I mean, outplaying FakeGod in that sequence. I know that FakeGod was playing a little bit up without his cooldowns to bait, but Castle played that very nicely in the top side between the 1v1 and then kind of maximizing his power in that 1v2. The one positive is that he is low on mana. So I do think that Castle is going to need a reset, as that TP coming in is going to be Huhi, as Disguise looks to set up for the grub spawning here in 55 seconds.
Oh, and he even
that's
interrupts
very
the
nice.
base from FakeGod, so
very nice.
Castle will have an earlier arrival to the bottom side of the map. So not only Disguised are doing everything proactively and one step ahead of Luminosity in taking the dragon when they had a proactive timer, they teleport early to the top side so they can establish priority for the upcoming grubs. I'm concerned if Luminosity are not going to be able to have any objective to fight for. I know that this composition kind of scales a little bit later on, and you want spikes like Trinity Force for Insanity and Leandry's for Tomio, but these guys are playing a relatively very fast game in terms of macro.
Again, I think it's somewhat needed, given the comps, and definitely think that this kind of comes from the jungle matchup and some just good rotations from this guy's overall. As Tomio really wants to farm, the Xayah Rakan does win out on this 2v2, and Ksante we have seen early on. Just push around FakeGod a little bit, as Ambessa really wants to get to that 1-2 item mark before things get better. So I think that part of this is from the draft, but also got to give some credit over to the Skies to really, since that first series against Destral, have instantly cleaned things up a bit. We did not see them play their best on that day, but they played great league against Luminosity Gaming and are off to a good start in today's game.
Yeah, it was almost night and day. The first day of Disguise playing against Destral, it seemed like they were very clearly suffering from nerves. Hang on. eXyu, alongside Rahel and Huhi, are going to look for Tactical, and nice use of the ultimate. At least clips Tactical on his way out, forcing him to flash and Killer Instinct. Zeyzal using his own ultimate as well. Not bad trade for Disguise, as they only burned one ultimate to get pretty much a valuable summoner spell out of Tactical.
They'll take it. They get something. As Castle has the Sheen.
Almost solo killing him too.
I think if that W is angled a little bit like up, because the public execution is going to, arrive on the back half of wherever you cast it, right? You go through the opponent that you hit the R on. Maybe he hits it if he angles that one up, because that's where Ambessa would have been. There's a lot of your damage on Ksante after he got changed around a bit is now in that W with the true damage when you are in the all-out mode. So Castle still a good play. Does have a health bar advantage, and with Disguise resetting out back onto the map, Tactical had to catch that wave bot, and Disguised again going to use their tempo in both side lanes to proactively swap. And going to get to both these waves first. So another opportunity for a fast play from eXyu, just from Disguise, again, using some good side lane tech. I think this is something that TL, year or two back, when TL was hot, they did this best. When they had double side lanes winning, go pull that swap, man. Coach Spawn drills his team hard in that. Good to see Disguise using that, as, again, they're going to get to both waves first, and that opens up eXyu to try and make a play.
We're about a minute
He's going to farm, but still, it's a good timer.
True. We're still about a minute away from the second dragon of the game, so eXyu will do his due diligence in clearing out a majority of his jungle, and even though Tomio has managed to steal a couple camps away, it's not going to be the end of the world for eXyu's own game. His job is just to protect his scaling carries as they are continuously farming up and hitting those spikes. And as you called out, the fact that DSG, if they're able to stack those dragons relatively fast, then it puts Luminosity on a more of a timer to try and answer back and not just let DSG start walking all over them on the map.
Yeah, I think one item is going to be big. As I will say that Insanity is going to be going for the first item Shojin. This is the Cubby build.
Oh, yeah.
For folks at home, this is what he does on the Corki. I think this gives you... I mean, Shojin's a very strong item. Triforce Spike is nice, but Shojin Spike as well. I think that the two items bigger, you just get tankier in the long haul. So we'll see if Insanity can use that one well. Definitely empowers your rockets a bit. With the poke. So we'll see if Insanity, again, can use that range advantage against both the Xayah and the Azir to make something happen. As at the moment, good control ward mid, pockets being carved out with Disguise's bot lane rotating up. Huhi knows that summoner spells and tools are down on the bot lane of Luminosity Gaming. I think Tactical's Flash is definitely where I would look if I'm Disguised to try and look for a find.
The formation has been broken up, though, by Disguise, as Luminosity are able to pinch Rahel and force him to back off, which then pretty much puts everyone else from Disguise forced back over the Dragon Pit wall. Huhi walks up, tries to re-establish control here, but at the moment, he's a little disconnected from eXyu, but he wants to go for that pincer maneuver, but Darkwings would have to face check into Zeyzal, so he has to be a little careful on his own. The rest of Disguise, though, group up at least as a three-man core from the bottom side river, and now touching the dragon. 3K. Nature's Grasp comes out from Tomio. Huhi pops the ultimate, tries to look for the charm on Zeyzal, but he cleanses it as he gets knocked up here. Huhi trying to look for tactical, but he's able to miss it, and FakeGod has teleported into the play. Castle can't get in. FakeGod picks up first blood onto Huhi, and now Disguise. Oh, eXyu stole it away from Tomio at the very last second. Can eXyu get out, though? That is the question. He pops the Crescent Guard, deflects the rest of Luminosity back. Castle goes all out, separates FakeGod. Here comes Darkwings, but he's below 50% HP. He has to be careful. Swoops in. Emperor's Divide pushes Zeyzal run on back. He's holding the line, but Tomio flashes forward with a twisted advance and puts down the Golden Emperor. It's absolute chaos in the Dragon Pit. Tomio tries to push Castle away, and the all-out times out. Here comes eXyu, though, as he slays Zeyzal down. Coming in to assist Castle. Rahel still had the Feather Sword this whole time. Insanity takes out eXyu, but the fight has been so damn long that Huhi comes back from the grave.
He's got a flash. Huhi might look to take Tactical's Flash away, as it is a 4 for 4. But eXyu found the big steal, because that secured feats for DSG. So they got the dragon, and we got to look at where the gold was kind of catered to. It's pretty big that we do have Insanity. Redemption came in just enough to save Tactical, as that was 1 HP there. But a lot of gold went onto Insanity, so he's going to be out on the map last. But Insanity, we'll see what he can do with his Cubby build now with the Shojin, as he was the big benefactor for LG as the individual. But I'd say Disguise went out as the team with that take.
The fact that eXyu managed to flash, smite steal the dragon away from Tomio. I don't know if we'll see in the replay that Tomio didn't have Bramble Smash up or not, but I think it is so good for Disguise Game to maintain that dragon stacking relatively on time, because we talked about it before. For Luminosity, they need to not let Disguise get ahead of the curve too fast, otherwise they're not going to have the scaling to match up against the defensive fortress comp that Disguise has clearly mastered in this promotion tournament.
Do have some swaps coming out after that fight, as the bot lanes are now mid, and there is a Corki into Ksante, which I will say Ksante with that early Iceborne Gauntlet definitely going to benefit a little bit, being able to weigh into physical damage, whether it is the Corki or the Ambessa. There is no shred yet on FakeGod, as I believe he wanted that Eclipse first. But yeah, you can see Castle against Insanity. At least gets a grass proc, you know.
Our next objective on the map here, Matt, is the Rift Herald spawning in about 10 seconds time. We don't necessarily see a majority of the members of Disguise set up in position for it on spawn. Yeah, I think they're going to use the power of these grubs, trying to look for Insanity. No flash on the Corki. Huhi already pops the quickness, gets charmed up, gets knocked up. Good night, Insanity. And that should open up Disguise to take the first tower on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, they do have 3 grubs, so maybe dropping Rift just to take something more immediate. Either way, Insanity was the one that was the big benefactor from that last fight. And kind of nice they were able to remove him from the map, but Darkwings are going to try and do the same for LG.
Whoa! Darkwings swooped on in! Nice moves by Isaac Chow, ladies and gentlemen! Able to push them back and gets out of a disastrous dive scenario.
That was handled beautifully as the Emperor's Divide was cast right when the headbutt came in from Zeyzal, was not able to chain up the Pulverize. And that's going to mean first brick falls with Ksante still farming bot. That's a lot of gold picked up for Disguised, as LG will now start the Rift Herald, but because some tools were used, Disguised might be able to contest. Castle could TP after this wave.
DSG have so much time available now to continue putting the pressure on the side lane. They don't end up fighting for the Rift Herald, but they delayed Luminosity in what their initial plans are for so long that it gives Disguise just an extra wave of farm into their pockets.
I do like that. I mean, again, I think the play made was to give the Rift, so the play was done. They don't want to overcommit. I thought that with the Nature's Grasp being down, maybe it was a look or a thought. Zeyzal didn't have his ult either, but just going to commit to the play their waves out and return, and that's some decent discipline from Disguise. It's a 1.5k gold lead now either way, with this dragon spawning in 45 seconds. Cloud Soul on the map would be quite nice for DSG to pick these up, deny them from LG, and have more tools, more ability to close the gap with that bonus move speed.
I'm still a little flustered by that play from Darkwings, man. It's like, Isaac. These are the moments that I live for, because when we watch Darkwings in his career throughout Tier 2, throughout Tier 3, and then eventually his debut in Tier 1. Oh, we're going to go all the way back into this Dragon Pit. Okay, story time for Isaac later.
This might be just a chaotic replay, as, again, I don't even know where to start with breaking this fight down. I do like the ult from Tactical to kind of reposition. That's what forces Rahel out after Huhi fell early, but eXyu with that flash, yoink the dragon, and then from here, I mean, I just think Castle and Rahel play out a better fight than LG, straight up. Darkwings as well. Like, this from Castle isolates 2 members of LG. Darkwings gets some good work down. As
we should go back to live. Castle is going to get isolated here. In a 1v3, went all out for Insanity, but the bait was laid down. Don't tell me. I thought Castle was about to get a 1-for-1 in the trade, but ends up getting shut down, and the gold goes over to FakeGod. But Tomio not able to get into the pit. Good use of the Crescent Guard, deflects Tomio at the right time. They secure the 3rd dragon of the game, and now Disguise are on Soul Point.
You know, it's funny, Tomio, the first final that he won for NACL, it was multiple games of Maokai playing into eXyu and Insanity on that Dignitas roster.
Yeah. Cloud9 challengers versus Dig challengers.
Yeah, and then that's kind of the start of Disguise.
What? That works like that? That's awesome!
Did we learn something new?
Holy moly!
I can't be this much of a noob to not know about that.
I just seen that. I've never seen
that before.
Yeah, I've never seen that interaction before. Holy cow!
Okay.
Well, Isaac has come to play, guys. I love this.
Well, Emperor's Divide greater than Shelly, as he denies that crash, and I mean, that makes the Herald trade even better. There's a Soul Point now secured for Disguise, as Tomio couldn't win the Q Smite flip against eXyu. Those 2 smites from eXyu honestly could be very much game-changing.
Yeah.
As both of the last 2 dragons flipped, and man, both those go LG's way. Might be talking about this game very differently. Like, hey, LG still scaling up. Ambessa's at 2 items. You have that Evolved Miramana on Insanity. And hey, it is a lot of team fight strength that is showing for Luminosity Gaming. I do think Disguise has to respect. But those 2 dragons, I mean, that's going to really open up the playbook here for Disguised. As we do have Otacon spawning on the bottom side of the map, so I think committing to bot and trying to control that is going to be the plan for both teams. But, of course, Disguised, if that Otacon's off the map, when that Baron spawns and Dragon's still up, they have the opportunity to kind of, hey, we don't need that Cloud Dragon. We could trade for a Baron. Opens up the playbook for sure.
Yeah, the fact that Disguise have effectively accelerated their game state so fast against Luminosity, who would love to take the game super, super slow, now puts the onus on them to say, we have to pretty much flip the entire game when it comes to Cloud Soul in the next 3 minutes. And because it's right before Baron and it's after Otacon spawns, this is going to as you say, open up the possibilities for Disguise to pretty much either have the keys to finish the game. We starting Otacon on spawn.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I really like how Disguise is playing with Otacon. They've been very disciplined at moving Otacon to whatever corner they want to play to. So they have it on the edge of the patience there down low, which forces LG to extend even more. It gives them better terrain to play on with the Azir and the mages they've been playing.
They're trying to
LG.
burst it. Oh, they finally go back in. eXyu pops the Crescent Guard. It might have been a little too early. Still 5k HP on the Otacon. Darkwings below 50% HP. Tomio can move in and try to steal it. Huhi goes back in. Flash for the grand entrance right onto the Insanity, but he gets popped by Tactical. Massive knockup from Zeyzal. Emperor Divide does not do enough for Disguise. And Luminosity Gaming catch Disguise with the pants down. And Luminosity are able to take the Otacon for themselves.
Very aggressive Otacon play. I think Disguise did end up taking too much damage on that as the Nature's Grasp from Tomio. That angle was very good. Darkwings took a lot of damage. He was stuck in the Nature's Grasp when Otacon did the spin to win. And I think that's what it got his health so low between that and Corki damage. Really enabled Luminosity Gaming to have an easier fight from there. Look at Tomio's ult. This angle is so good. And yeah, see Otacon spinning. Darkwings getting so low from that, and the Corki damage was just stuck. And the re-engage from Huhi was kind of desperation, because they felt like this was the only way we could try and win the fight, but they couldn't get to Insanity. Valkyrie's away. Everyone dogpiles on the Darkwings, who was already low. Rahel falls as well, and that's a lot of gold going over to Luminosity Gaming as 2 kills for the Ambessa and a shutdown for Tactical. And look at those items that he was able to pick up. I didn't see if he had a Rage Blade or not before the fight started, but he's got one and change now as he's on par with the Xayah.
And Insanity did so much work. The fact that before that Otacon fight, he actually had fully stacked Muramana as well as that Shojin in his inventory, while Darkwings, yeah, he had the tier 2 boots over him, but didn't have his second item fully completed. I was a little nervous about Disguise trying to start up that fight early, and the concept was, I can agree with, trying to hold that choke point, but in execution, Luminosity are able to get the better of them, and now the game state has changed completely in Luminosity's favor.
1.5k gold lead now for them, and this dragon spawning in 25 seconds could be all the much more important for Disguise. As Cloud Soul could change things. I will say, Huhi with the Mikhails instead of the Redemption, I think a little bit of a power differential there between Alistar having Redemption, having that Unbreakable Will, which pretty much guarantees 2 spell rotations. Rakan, Redemption, still a lot of teamfight power, even if it was nerfed on this patch. And, well, we'll see if Rakan can really tank up some of these saplings between the shields and the Qs. Yeah, I think Disguise is giving. They don't have the conditions they want to fight this, so they're just going to commit to playing out the wave. So they're going to give away that dragon, try and play for mid-inner.
I like the trade instead. Just force Luminosity to all in onto the dragon so that you have at least a window to get some damage onto that tier 2 turret in the mid lane. But Disguise never really in an optimal position to fight Luminosity after what was such a winning fight from them and being able to accelerate those spikes. I think Disguise are going to have to wait for the next opportunity where they can get first move into the river and set up the vision control necessary if they want a chance for that soul. But before then, Matt, Baron will be on the map in the next minute and 30 seconds.
At least they signed up for the cross map, right? I think a lot of teams, they take that fight and then lose it. It's quite bad. Oh, Root still hit.
Oh boy, Castle. He's tanky, but I don't think he's tanky enough. Nice use of the all-out and the flash.
He's out.
He does manage to escape.
All right, well played. Tools burn, but Castle gets out, and that's a top inner turret taken in the meantime. And this is why I like the fact that Disguise did drop that dragon, because, you know, obviously that's a soul. If you get that, that's big, but they accepted the fact, hey, we don't have map position here. We're going to commit to where we actually have position. We know they're on the dragon now. Let's commit to taking mid. What happens after that? All right, guys, they're showing bot. They just took dragon. Let's take the top side. They get a win out on that play. I mean, it's 2 towers for 1, but at least they took down an inner. They can pick up all these waves, and they committed to trading something instead of fighting something where the conditions weren't there. They felt like the strength wasn't there, and you can live to fight another day with that. I do think that was the right call from Disguise. And now they're first to top side as Baron spawns. So yeah, they did lose out on 2 turrets, but even that delay from Castle gives them tempo to get into this top side and see if they can find a setup. There's a good ward placed by LG that spots everything, but still opportunities for tempo the way that Disguise is playing.
And this is the discipline that Disguise has been able to improve upon throughout this 2025 season. When this roster first started out, at the beginning of the LTA North back in Winter Split. Obviously, a lot of changes have been made since we got into Split 3, but the fact that this team is operating more efficiently and understanding how to play the map better and not be lulled into bad macro plays. This is Luminosity now trying to go for the Baron immediately. They have the power of this Maokai to control all the objectives. Castle is pushing on the bottom side of the map.
It's gone. It's gone.
Baron is gone.
No, that's not what you want from Disguise. They're too late to check it. The Kaisa DPS was there, and now there might be a fight. They're bleeding out Zeyzal's ult. I think Zeyzal goes down.
Zeyzal flashed away just in time. Castle's still looking for it. The W doesn't get in range for the Q slow. Luminosity still don't have to worry about another Dragon Soul contention for another 2 minutes. So Baron cleanly secured by Luminosity Gaming.
And that's a heist and a half from LG, honestly. Again, Disguise, they were the ones that were playing out on the top side. They were the ones that were there first. And LG simply just calls their bluff, rips it down. And their 2 marksmen each on 3 items. I mean, the DPS way too much for Disguise to... They could have afforded to just let everyone kind of come back before they check. They had to check earlier, whether it was a blue trinket or a body. Not found, and that's a free Baron going over to LG, and what a way to stabilize things later on for them. As now, I mean, Ambessa is going to be 3 items. You can really use this Baron to try and set up your waves well to deny this next soul that spawns for DSG2.
Rahel is still working towards what I believe is going to be an Infinity Edge for that 3rd item. Darkwings yet to complete his own 3rd item, as he looks like he didn't have enough gold to be able to complete it quite yet. Huhi has got to be careful. In his bottom side jungle, he has a lot of defensive tools, but burning them preemptively before what could be a Cloud Soul secure for Disguise would not be ideal conditions here, as Disguise now on the back foot. Luminosity find themselves 3,000 gold ahead ever since that victorious play over the Otacon. Oh, they found eXyu potentially. A lot of damage onto him. It's only a third of his HP. Zeyzal forced to pop the ultimate. Castle walking away slowly from Tactical as he gets chipped down to 50% HP. But it's enough for Disguise to survive another day.
Thought there was a chance that Castle would just all-out Zeyzal. He had no flash, so he puts him on the other side of a wall. Even with that Unbreakable Will, I think that he's out of position and goes down. Was a little bit surprised we didn't see Castle just send Zeyzal over that line wall to get him closer to mid, but gonna play back and gonna try and defend as the next Baron wave. I gotta believe that bot outer or bot inner turret's gonna fall at some point, but LG did take a quick reset using those Baron recalls because they want to make sure their dragon is clean. 20 seconds before this dragon spawns, and that's a lot of control through the bot side that Disguise is going to reset and probably give.
Rahel's now on 3 items, but Darkwings has yet to find his 3rd own spike. So Luminosity Gaming have complete control of this bottom quadrant and should be successful in denying another Cloud Soul from Disguise.
Yeah, Tactical just rips this one. I think this is the right call from LG. As good poke from Insanity too.
Holy.
That's when you stack up that Shojin, get those rockets going. That is kind of the perk of this build, between that and, you know, having that extra HP between the Black Cleaver and the Bloodmail. We'll see if he can make use of that one later on.
Oh yeah.
But Insanity, he's got the biggest lead right now over Darkwings. Did have a really good start to the lane phase and has played some of these fights very well, as there has been a very clear focus from Luminosity Gaming to make sure that they're playing around Darkwings' range. Between that Nature's Grasp at the Otacon fight and having him behind early on, we've seen a couple of good plays and moments from Darkwings to get out of ganks, but it is Insanity that has the biggest individual lead and has made good use of it.
Mm-hmm. The fact that Luminosity have done a great job of being able to rebound in what was a very scary tempo game that DSG were playing, being able to successfully stack all 3 dragons at a very rapid fashion. But everything went wrong for Disguise at that Otacon, and now Luminosity, they have the scaling advantage on their side. They have the gold advantage. These guys are going to have to dig deep and lean on their backline core, believing in the fact that if eXyu, Huhi, and Capsule can peel away every single threat that tries to threaten Darkwings and Rahel, they will be able to bring them back from the brink.
Rahel is starting to work on that pen, and a Seekers has been picked up for Tactical, which could be really big. I mean, we're talking about getting out of a Huhi combo potentially with a well-timed Seekers. Can be a game changer. Is Tactical getting even more gold for himself? did clean up the turret in the top side as we have a little bit of a swap of power on the map. Tactical is the one playing faster. He's not there. But Insanity and Luminosity Gaming, they feel okay to clear out the wave with this mid inner being protected. They lose the bot inner. But, oh, there's a TP coming out. They're going to hunt down Tactical. They're going to chase him long.
Can Tactical get out, though? Tomio is already there, and I think the threat of a lot of the reinforcements from Luminosity are enough to just stave Disguise away from being able to pursue Tactical further. The fact that level advantages have become such a clear boon for Luminosity. Insanity's level 17 on this Corki. Darkwings not yet close to level 16.
Yeah. Huhi's about to hit 11. Darkwings is about to hit 16. That will be really nice for Disguise, but FakeGod just hit 18. And that's a 3-item Ambessa that is very scary. So I think it's very important that Rahel has a good fight against FakeGod and is able to connect with a Rip. I think if FakeGod is able to get around the Rip at all as the Ambessa, that is where a lot of your damage lies on the Xayah. We'll see if FakeGod can use his hop, skips, and jumps to navigate through that one.
Gonna be tough. We've seen Rahel be able to pull off some slick moves. Yeah, it really has become the thorn in Disguise side this game 1. Luminosity, 4,000 gold ahead still, getting ready for the Baron spawn in the next 10 seconds, taking up post on this top river entrance.
I think Disguise committing to the wave. They're just going to try and play out from there. And getting the wave first is smart for them, but they're going to eat a lot of poke from these saplings. They haven't really talked about the Maokai damage, but yeah, you can see where eXyu's at between the Corki and the Maokai, and now the Void Seeker's coming in as well, with Tactical having more AP in his kit. That's going to be an eXyu that has to do a camp and might even have to go back after that.
I mean, if he goes back and Luminosity sniff it out, that's a Baron gone. So eXyu is gonna have to work with a slightly depleted health bar as another sapling's gonna find him, and yep, here comes the Rip.
LG stalling. They're going to try and get out one more boot trigger. Oh, good turn.
eXyu forced to pop the pressing guard here. The rest of the backline is keeping their distance. Luminosity still trying to just push Disguised out. The front line has been completely chipped out.
No TP.
It's only Huhi and eXyu that can step up comfortably, but Castle with no TP has to make the best out of his scenario. Huhi, full-man engage from Zeyzal. The Emperor's Divide pushes them back. They find Tomio. Can they rely on Rahel? Rahel's going crazy. He finds the feathers. It doesn't matter. Disguise, dig deep, and they come out on top.
I think that's game. They get Baron, they get Cloud Soul. It was off the back of the snap reaction from Disguise as a solo lane carries played that fight brilliantly. The Emperor's Divide from Darkwings was the reset that found Tomio. Then look at how Castle finds the backline in this one too. It's a decent first engage. They take some tools away. No more Crescent Guard for eXyu is a big one. And you're going to see Huhi fail to find Insanity. The re-engage from Zeyzal is really good, but Darkwings was able to combo. Watch Zeyzal. It's the WQ flash. That gets 4, but Darkwings with the sweep. Tomio goes down the Baron. Then Castle, the flash onto Tactical was so good. It gets both of the AD carries in the backline as Tactical couldn't do anything off the flash. All from Castle. The all out is an all in from Disguise as they get the Baron, they get the Cloud Soul, and now they're poised to win the game.
And that 4,000 gold advantage that Luminosity were holding over the heads of Disguise instantly evaporates in one single fight. Disguise lean true to their strengths in believing in Rahel and Darkwings to carry out the fight as long as the defensive formation is able to peel away threats. And that time, they find the 2 carries of Luminosity and now are on the victory siege.
Castle has TP. He's the one that split. His bot has been broken. Man, that fight, too, that ult from Darkwings really bought space for Rahel as well. I wasn't paying as much attention to Rahel damage. He didn't even have to ult that last fight, though, as he is quite fed. It was just a big play from Castle and Darkwings. I mean, the CC and how they played off it from Disguise, that was beautiful. How quick that was from Castle. I mean, that reaction, that's a fight winner right there from him. As Castle, I mean, you called it out. You had some coaches and some LCS folks that were like, hey, we think Castle's better than where he's at in Immortals. Or, hey, we think that even though Castle's on Disguise, we still think he's a better player than an 8th place top laner.
Yes.
Castle stepping up, trying to remain an LCS top laner as they need to win this series to keep their spot. That was a massive play from Castle.
I mean, the fact that he did it while a quarter of his HP left on the health bar, we were mentioning it in the fight leading up. that it seemed like the tanks that the only people that could step up comfortably were eXyu and Huhi. Castle had to really wait for that moment, but here we go. Disguise continuing to do damage into Luminosity's base as they now try to push through the top side of the map after successfully taking down the bottom lane inhibitor.
Rahel's very big. This is a point where Xayah, if you get a clean fight, can kind of snap back in the matchup. Yes, the DPS from Kaisa is greater, but those rips from Xayah still can be so dangerous. As Insanity doing his best to connect the poke onto Xayah, but Rahel going to be topped off by Huhi. Darkwings holding the line. Nature's Grasp has come out.
Huhi already using the Mikhails just to cleanse the root. Holds the line. That's one ultimate gone from Luminosity Gaming.
They aren't really syncing up these two waves. As you can see, top crash, then mid crash, as Castle's not really holding back on this one. If you hold back the mid wave, then you can get them to crash together. One area that Disguise could clean up a wee bit, but either way, it's good poke from Darkwings here as, Huhi
Tomio forced a flash. eXyu is in. They're just trying to buy time for the turret to fall, and the rest of Disguise can regroup and rebound as the rest of Luminosity trying to look for an angle. Ooh. Good use of the Featherstorm, dodging out on the public execution from FakeGod. But now, a lot of defensive tools have already been used by Disguise, and they're going to take this time to reset.
I think that's it. That was a good look there from FakeGod. I respect that one. As Rahel on point with the ult of his own. I think that Hui's about to complete a redemption of his own too. Yep, redemption and a Guardian Angel for Rahel. Some big luxury items coming in with that GA. As it still is Insanity. It's not the Overlord's Bloodmail, but the Sterax. So really trying to be tanky on this Corki. And just put out the shred damage. Again, if he keeps the Xayah and keeps the Azir at bay, can be nice, but the Xayah just being this late in the game, there's lifesteal in Rahel's runes, and that's starting to work overtime against some of the Corki pokes. So some of this build's starting to be nullified.
When Luminosity are able to get to an objective first and lay down an aggressive enough poke before they snap for the engage, can look good, but eXyu just goes immediately onto Tomio's face. The rest of the engage from Luminosity trying to find the backline. eXyu and Castle getting depleted on health bars, but Zeyzal is the first one to drop. eXyu gets traded. Here comes Darkwings with a nice shuffle onto FakeGod. Huhi leading the charge for the rest of the Toast Brothers as Luminosity Gaming could begin to crumble. Tactical, the last one standing, the last one to drop. Disguise gonna take game one of the series.
The last series, we saw Disguise 3-0. It was because they played the 25-minute plus mark better. Luminosity Gaming, we thought they were playing that part of the game better with the Otacon take pre-25, the Baron sneak later, but the team fighting from Disguise was too on point as Castle and Darkwings, their ability to hold the line was fantastic. Rahel was able to free fire, and Disguise finds game one.
That Baron fight was monumental for Disguise. Their backs were against the wall after a blunder punished by Luminosity Gaming in the Otacon pit. We were giving Luminosity pretty much the momentum to win the rest of that game one. The massive 4,000 gold advantage, the massive plays around the map, and being able to continue to control so many corridors, so many choke points. It looked grim for Disguise, but being able to find that clutch moment, that is why we gave Disguise their props coming into this grand finals.
I mean, neither team showed much fear in that game one. The stakes are so high in this one. Just the ability for Castle to snap react like that, that was so good from him. Darkwings as well, who had multiple very strong Emperor's Divines in that game. Darkwings has really shown that on the mages, Disguised and him, they can play with those champions and play around it. He's been team fighting really well as Disguised team fought better than LG in that game and find game one.
An epic way to kick off our grand finals. That's game one wrapped up in the books. When we come back after this break, we're going to continue on with game number two.